Before you close out a long day, allow yourself to pause here, just for a few minutes. There is nothing you need to do. No need to try to fall asleep right away. Just listen. In the midst of a noisy rhythm of life, when the mind has grown used to constantly thinking, responding, tightening itself just to survive, sleep can sometimes become the most elusive thing of all. The body is tired, yet inside you there are still too many voices that refuse to fall silent. Sleep, by its very nature, is not something that can be forced. From the perspective of Carl Jung, when we sleep, consciousness steps back to make room for a deeper part of the soul, a place where the unconscious quietly heals, rearranges, and restores us to our natural balance. But for that door to open, we must feel safe. We must relax. We must know that there is nothing more required of us. And that is exactly why Stories for Sleep exists. This is a space for those who are seeking peace before sleep. A place where you don't need to learn, remember, or make an effort. You only need to listen. On this channel, we explore the most soothing truths about sleep, from the gentle science of the brain to the mysteries of dreams, to the ways sleep supports the human mind and emotions. Every story, every line of narration is written slowly and softly, just enough for your mind to release its tension and allow your body to do what it already knows how to do. If you are listening to this at night, think of it as a quiet whisper keeping you company. And if you wish for more moments like this each evening, don't forget to subscribe to Stories for Sleep. Your presence allows this space to continue, creating gentle stories so that each night you always have somewhere to return to. Now, you may soften a little more, and we can begin. Before you drift into sleep tonight, pause for a very brief and ask yourself, when was the last time you truly rested, not just closing your eyes, not merely lying still, but a deep kind of rest where the mind no longer strains, no longer has to prove anything, no longer needs to think one more thought? Sleep is a strange thing like that. Each night, we willingly let go of control, stepping away from the familiar world of light, identity, and responsibility, and entering a deep darkness that none of us fully understands. Even after tens of thousands of nights, sleep retains its gentle mystery, both familiar and distant, like an old home whose rooms we have never fully explored. In the modern world, many people are exhausted, yet unable to sleep. The body lies still, but the mind wanders. Unfinished thoughts, suppressed emotions, nameless anxieties all rise together the moment the lights go out. We try to force ourselves to sleep, and that very effort pushes sleep even farther away. What should be most natural becomes a silent, nightly struggle. From Carl Jung's perspective, sleep is not the shutting down of consciousness, but the opening of a doorway to the unconscious, where the soul continues to live, to heal, to reorganize itself in ways that daytime logic cannot reach. When we sleep, the small ego steps aside, allowing a deeper, more ancient intelligence within us to take over, quietly, without instruction, yet with remarkable precision. This video is not meant to teach you how to sleep, nor to offer commands or formulas. Instead, it is a gentle invitation, an invitation to understand sleep in a kinder, more compassionate way. The truths you are about to hear are not meant to stimulate your mind, but to reassure it, not to be memorized, but to be let go. As you listen, you may realize something simple. Sleep has never turned away from you. You may have simply forgotten how to return to it. And perhaps right now, when you allow yourself not to understand everything, sleep has already begun to draw closer. Part 1. Sleep, the mysterious border of life. There may be no human experience as familiar yet as mysterious as sleep. Every day without being taught, reminded, or fully understanding why we arrive at a similar moment. The body slows the eyes close, and consciousness dissolves like a thin veil of mist. Young or old, healthy or unwell, across every culture, sleep arrives as a universal ritual of life. And it is precisely this universality that hides a deep paradox. We live with sleep our entire lives, yet rarely truly understand it. Sleep is unlike other human activities. We can observe ourselves eating, working, loving, worrying, but we cannot witness ourselves sleeping. The moment of falling asleep is always missing from memory. Consciousness fades before it can record anything. And when we wake, sleep is already behind us, complete, silent, unexplained. Sleep is therefore like an invisible border. We cross it every night, but bring no map back with us. In the modern world, where everything is measured, optimized, and controlled, sleep remains one of the few experiences that demands surrender. No one can command themselves to sleep instantly. No one can will consciousness to shut down. The more we try to control sleep, the farther it retreats. And this is what makes sleep feel so foreign to the modern ego, an ego accustomed to mastery, control, and explanation. From Carl Jung's viewpoint, falling asleep is not merely a biological reflex. It is a profound psychological ritual in which the conscious ego, the part we call I during the day, voluntarily withdraws. Each night, this ego relinquishes authority, making room for another kind of intelligence, the unconscious. Quiet, unannounced, yet far older than the ego itself. What is striking is that humans do not fear sleep, even though it means complete loss of control. We don't know what we will dream. We don't know when we will wake. We don't know where the mind and body will take us. And yet every night we let go. Perhaps because at a very deep level we trust sleep. We trust that some part of us knows how to care for us better than we do. Modern science has begun to confirm this instinctive trust. When the body sleeps, the brain does not shut down. Instead, it enters a different rhythm, subtle, slow, and astonishingly precise. Regions responsible for logic, language, and control quiet down, while systems related to emotion, memory, and restoration quietly work. The brain repairs damaged connections, reorganizes memories, filters out excess signals, like a silent gardener moving through the inner landscape at night, trimming, clearing, and preparing for morning. Yet if we see sleep only as biological repair, we still miss its deepest dimension. For Jung, sleep is the time when the soul speaks in its own language. Not words, but images, symbols, emotions, and vague stories. This is why sleep and dreams feel both familiar and strange, deeply personal yet ancient. They do not merely reflect daytime life. They connect us to a deeper layer of experience, where unnamed fears, desires, and memories continue to live. In a hurried life, modern humans often go to bed with a rigid mind. We carry the entire day into sleep, unanswered emails, unfinished conversations, undigested emotions. And then we are surprised when sleep does not come. But sleep does not arrive to serve a hurried ego. It comes only when we allow ourselves to stop. That is why this opening is not meant to explain sleep academically, nor to give you anything to remember. It is a gentle introduction, a slow bridge, guiding you from tense wakefulness into another space. A space where not understanding everything is safe, where nothing needs to be done correctly, where you only need to be present. Sleep is not an empty gap between 2 days. It is a parallel world where life continues under gentler laws. And as you listen now, you may not fall asleep immediately, but perhaps you have already begun to drift away from today, just a little. Enough for the door to quietly open. Part 2. Why do we have to sleep? A question without complete answer. There are questions that seem so simple we rarely pause to truly consider them. Why do we have to sleep? It sounds like asking why we breathe, eat, or drink water. Too obvious to require explanation. And precisely because it is so obvious, it hides a deep truth: we do not really know why we must sleep. Science has studied sleep for decades. Brains have been scanned, brainwaves, measured hormones, analyzed behaviors, recorded. Thousands of studies have been published. Yet to this day, no single theory can stand up and say this is the complete reason sleep exists. There are only hypotheses, reasonable, persuasive, yet never complete. Some suggest we sleep to conserve energy. When the body is still, energy use decreases, resources are preserved. That sounds reasonable until we realize how little energy is actually saved compared to the survival risk of being unconscious for hours. If sleep were only about energy, its cost would seem too high. Others say sleep exists to repair the body, Tissues regenerate, immunity strengthens, growth hormones are released. This is true, but still not enough. The body also repairs itself during rest, stillness, relaxation. So why require a state in which consciousness fully withdraws? Another theory suggests sleep processes memory, organizing, learning, keeping what matters, discarding what doesn't. Also true. Yet if sleep were only about memory, why does sleep deprivation shatter emotions, morality, self-control, and sense of self? Clearly, sleep reaches far deeper than data storage. Each theory feels like a correct piece, but none completes the picture. Perhaps sleep does not exist for a single reason. Looking at nature deepens the mystery. Sleep varies widely across species. Some sleep long, others briefly. Some sleep deeply, others with only half the brain. Even creatures without a traditional brain show rhythmic rest-activity cycles. This diversity suggests sleep is not a side function, but a flexible principle of life itself. From Carl Jung's perspective, the question, why do we have to sleep, may not be purely biological. Sleep concerns not only the body, but the soul. When we sleep, consciousness, the part that wants to understand, control, and name, withdraws. And in that quiet, the unconscious steps forward. Jung believed the unconscious is not chaotic, but self-regulating. It compensates for the imbalances of waking consciousness. When daytime life becomes too tense, too controlled, too identified with roles, sleep emerges as a natural counterbalance, not to serve the ego, but to preserve the wholeness of the person. Perhaps this is why sleep cannot be replaced. No activity, rest, meditation, relaxation can fully substitute for it. We can delay it, resist it, but we cannot eliminate it without consequence. Sleep is a quiet reminder humans were not designed to remain awake forever. In a society that glorifies productivity, alertness, and control, sleep can feel inconvenient. It forces us to stop, to admit limits, to trust that something within us can function without conscious supervision. And perhaps that is why sleep is both essential and difficult for modern humans. So the question, why do we have to sleep, may not need a complete answer. Perhaps sleep exists not to be fully understood, but to be experienced and respected. It exists because life needs a space where doing nothing still has meaning, where letting go is not failure, where consciousness steps back so the whole person can rebalance. You do not need to hold this question in your mind now. You can let it drift away as sleep itself drifts in. Some things in life do not need explanation to be valuable, and sleep is one of them. Part 3. Sleep as a universal law of life. When humans think about sleep, we often begin with ourselves, with the familiar bed, the fatigue at the end of the day, with restless nights or vague dreams. But if we step far enough back, beyond personal life, beyond humanity itself, we begin to notice something quiet yet profound. Sleep is not a human invention. It does not belong exclusively to complex minds or modern civilization. Sleep has been there for a very long time, like a foundational breath of life itself. All living beings with a nervous system, simple or complex, enter periods when they step away from wakefulness. They are not always active, not always responding, not always alert. There are moments when their entire world slows down. Heart rhythms change. Movement becomes minimal. Awareness, each species in its own way, withdraws, as if life in any form requires silence in order to continue. What is especially striking is that even creatures without brains, such as jellyfish, still exhibit cycles remarkably similar to sleep. They do not think or dream as humans understand dreaming, yet they show periods of reduced responsiveness, reduced movement, and require time to return to full activity. This discovery forces science to pause. For if sleep existed only to serve the brain, why would a brainless organism still need a sleep-like state? This question opens a deep possibility. Sleep may be older than the brain itself. It may not have arisen to serve thinking. Rather, thinking may have emerged within a world that already knew rest and activity. In other words, before life learned how to think, it had already learned how to stop. Before it could analyze, it already knew how to let go. Seen this way, sleep is no longer a secondary function but a foundational principle, like tides, rising and falling, like day and night, like contraction and expansion. Life does not operate as a straight line but as rhythm. And within that rhythm, rest is not interruption. It is the condition that allows movement to continue. Carl Jung saw nature as a mirror of psychological life. He believed that what unfolds in the human psyche is inseparable from the deep laws of life itself. If nature requires cycles of rest and activity, then the human mind does as well. Consciousness cannot remain on the front line indefinitely. If it does not retreat naturally through sleep, it will be forced back through exhaustion, disorder, or crisis. In this light, sleep becomes a silent reminder no creature is designed to remain awake forever. No system is meant to function continuously at peak intensity. When humans try to live as if they are exceptions to nature, needing no rest, no pause, no darkness, we unknowingly separate ourselves from the very current that sustains us. What makes sleep quietly beautiful is that it does not discriminate. It does not care who you are, what you think, or what you accomplish today. When night falls, every living being must quiet itself in its own way. The forms differ, the durations vary, but the principle remains the same. Life must gather inward in order to continue outward. In the modern world, where activity is praised and rest is often seen as weakness, we slowly forget this law. We extend wakefulness. We shorten sleep. We try to live as though we could escape this ancient rhythm. But the body and the psyche always remember, and they will speak if not listened to. Sleep, then, is not merely a personal need, but a participation in a greater order of life. Each time we sleep, we are not resting only for ourselves. We are rejoining a shared rhythm, one that existed before humanity, before consciousness, before the question why. Perhaps this is why sleep often carries such deep peace. When we sleep, we temporarily stop having to be someone. We become simply a living being, returning to the most fundamental rhythm of existence. No need to prove anything, no need to understand. Only presence in stillness. If you are listening now, you may not yet be asleep, but perhaps some part of you has already begun to synchronize with life's slower rhythm. And like all natural rhythms, sleep arrives not when you call for it, but when you stop separating yourself from the flow. One of the greatest illusions of modern humanity may be the feeling that we stand outside nature. We speak of nature as something out there, forests, oceans, animals, sky, while forgetting that our bodies and inner rhythms are woven from the same laws. Sleep is one of the last threads still connecting us to that order, even if we rarely notice it. When we watch an animal sleep, we often feel an instinctive peace, not because it is beautiful, but because it is being true to its nature. It does not feel guilty for resting. It does not worry about doing enough. It does not ask whether it is wasting time. Life, in its purest form, does not argue with the need for rest. Only humans do. Carl Jung once said that much of human psychological suffering comes from living too far from instinct. We stop listening to the natural rhythms within us, and instead impose the demands of society, culture, and ego. In that context, sleep becomes a battleground. The body asks for rest, while consciousness refuses to stop. And then we are surprised when we feel exhausted, anxious, empty, as though we have forgotten how to return to the most basic thing. Yet sleep remains there patient, as nature is always patient. It does not disappear when ignored. It simply waits until we stop resisting. If sleep truly predates the brain as biological signs suggest, then every time we sleep, we touch a deep memory of life itself. A memory not personal, but evolutionary, spanning billions of years. A place where life learned that to continue, one must sometimes retreat. To survive, one must sometimes dissolve. Seen this way, sleep is not something to optimize, but something to respect. Not because it helps us perform better tomorrow, but because it reminds us that we are not machines. We are living beings, and life requires depth and quiet. If part of you still wants to understand more, to grasp To conclude, you do not need to. Sleep does not require understanding. It requires permission. Permission to return to a larger cycle, where rest and activity are not opposites but support one another. And if tonight you sleep, you are not resting only for yourself. You are repeating an ancient gesture that millions of species before you have made a simple gesture filled with wisdom to stop, so that life may continue flowing through you in its own way. Part 4. Humans spend 1/3 of their lives sleeping. And it is not a waste. If there is one number that unsettles modern humans, it may be this one: we spend nearly 1/3 of our lives asleep. 30 years if we live to 90. 25 years if we live to 75. Decades passing in darkness, in silence, in a state where we are not doing anything at all. In a world that measures value through productivity and achievement, this can feel like an enormous waste. But perhaps it is this perspective that needs reconsideration. If sleep were truly a meaningless void, evolution would not have preserved it for so long. Evolution has no room for excess. Anything that consumes vast amounts of time, energy, and vulnerability yet persists for millions of years must hold a fundamental value deeper than what is immediately visible. Sleep is not a dead zone in life. It is the other side of the coin of existence. During the day, we move outward, acting, communicating, deciding, colliding. At night, we turn inward, restoring, reorganizing, healing, restructuring. Without both sides, the coin cannot stand. While we sleep, the body does not abandon the work of living. On the contrary, it enters its quietest and most essential shift. Tissues repair. The immune system recalibrates. The brain clears what is unnecessary and reinforces what matters. Microscopic tensions accumulated throughout the day are gently released. Sleep is like a silent repair workshop operating in the dark, without the supervision of consciousness. Yet sleep's greatest value lies not only in the body but in preventing waking life from collapsing. When humans lack sleep, we do not merely feel tired. We become more irritable, less clear, less compassionate. Self-control weakens. Decisions grow impulsive. Emotions drift off course. As if sleep deprivation does not just drain energy, but erodes the stability of the ego itself. Carl Jung viewed humans as systems requiring constant balance between opposing poles. Consciousness cannot remain healthy without being supported by the unconscious. Sleep is the quiet bridge between these two worlds. When we sleep, the unconscious has space to work, correcting what consciousness overdid, compensating for what was neglected during the day, and keeping the whole person centered. Without sleep, waking life soon becomes distorted. One may stay awake an extra night or two, but the cost is not just fatigue. It is the gradual cracking of perception, emotion, and identity. History and medicine show this clearly. No one can live long-term in wakefulness alone. Consciousness forced to stand alone too long eventually collapses. Thus, spending 1/3 of life asleep is not waste, it is a survival investment. An investment that does not produce immediate achievements, but preserves the entire structure of life. Sleep does not create value in obvious ways, but it protects what matters most, the ability to continue living whole. Sleep is often undervalued because we cannot remember what we did while sleeping. There is no clear memory, no accomplishment to report. But not everything important needs to be remembered. Some of the most vital processes occur outside conscious awareness, like the beating of the heart or the division of cells. Human life seen deeply is not built only from waking hours. It is shaped by the rhythmic alternation of waking and sleeping. Just as music needs both sound and silence, humans need both action and release. Without silence, music becomes noise. Perhaps when we accept that decades of life spent sleeping are not regrettable, we begin to treat sleep with greater respect, not as an obligation to complete quickly, but as an essential part of a meaningful life. If you are listening to this at night, you do not need to worry that you are wasting time. You may be exactly where you need to be, a place where doing nothing is enough. And within that quiet sufficiency, sleep continues its work, as it always has throughout human history. What may be hardest for humans to accept about sleep is not fatigue, but time. We live in a culture that constantly asks, "What is this time used for?" And when no clear answer appears, we label it waste. Sleep does not answer that question in familiar terms. It produces no products, leaves no visible traces, yields no measurable outcomes. It simply keeps everything from falling apart. If we look slowly at a human life, we see that the most decisive changes rarely occur in haste. Growth, healing, deep shifts in perspective usually arise in quiet spaces. Sleep is the largest and most regular silence life offers us. Each night we are given the chance not to be someone doing, but simply someone being. From Carl Jung's perspective, time is not only linear sequence but inner process. Some transformations cannot occur in waking consciousness because consciousness is always rushing forward. They require darkness, retreat of the ego, and a space free from pressure. Sleep creates that space again and again throughout life. Without sleep, we do not only lose physical restoration, we lose continuity with ourselves. Each morning, after sufficient sleep, we are not exactly the same person as yesterday. Edges have softened. Tensions have been laid down. These changes are subtle, but they preserve the feeling of being oneself. This is why prolonged sleep deprivation often leads people to say they don't feel like themselves anymore. That is not exaggeration. When sleep is removed, the self-regulating cycle breaks, and waking life loses its invisible foundation, like a house still standing, but with a cracked base. Thus, the decades spent sleeping are not lost years. They are the submerged part of the iceberg, supporting everything visible above. Without that hidden mass, nothing can rise. And perhaps when we allow ourselves to see sleep time as legitimate, necessary, and meaningful, we approach sleep with less resistance. No longer rushing, no longer optimizing, just a simple permission to rest so that life may continue. If tonight you sleep, you are not wasting time. You are participating in a process deeper than any plan, the process that keeps your life intact. Part 5. When sleep is lost, body and mind begin to unravel. Humans usually think about sleep only when it begins to disappear. When we sleep well, we rarely question it. But when nights stretch on in restlessness, when the body is tired yet the mind refuses to stop, we begin to feel clearly. Sleep deprivation is not just fatigue. It is a slow, subtle erosion occurring in both body and soul. Sleep deprivation experiments were not conducted to challenge human limits, but to observe what happens when a fundamental need is removed. At first, the sleepless feel sluggish and unfocused. Soon, deeper changes emerge, emotions become unstable, memory fragments, judgment deteriorates. Familiar things begin to distort. The world remains the same, but our experience of it does not. As sleep loss continues, the boundary between real and unreal starts to blur. The brain, no longer able to maintain stable perception, generates hallucinations not from weakness, but because the system has been pushed beyond biological limits. Images without source, sounds without origin appear as warning signals something essential is missing. What is striking is that humans can endure hunger for days, even weeks, but just a few nights without sleep can cause the mind to unravel. This suggests that sleep is not merely a biological need alongside food, but something deeper. Food nourishes the body. Sleep nourishes the entire system that allows a person to remain themselves. There are rare illnesses in which people gradually lose the ability to sleep, and the outcome is always the same. Bodily collapse, psychological disintegration, and death, not from lack of food, but from lack of sleep. These cases, though rare, reveal a stark truth: without sleep, life cannot sustain wholeness. From Carl Jung's perspective, this unraveling is not only biological, but psychological. Human consciousness was never designed to operate alone. It needs the unconscious as its supporting ground. Sleep is the time when the unconscious has space to regulate, compensate, and prevent the ego from becoming rigid to the point of breaking. When sleep is removed, consciousness is forced to stand alone for too long, and it fractures. Perhaps this is why sleep deprivation often comes with a feeling of losing oneself. People say they no longer recognize themselves, cannot control reactions, cannot feel continuity with who they were yesterday. This is not complaint, it is the lived experience of a system losing its self-regulating rhythm. Sleep deprivation also exposes something we often hide during the day. Humans are more fragile than we like to believe. We prefer to think of ourselves as strong, resilient, limitless. But after just a few nights without sleep, that structure begins to shake. And in that shaking, sleep appears not as luxury, but as the condition for remaining human. Sleep, then, is not merely a reward after exhaustion. It is a survival boundary protecting us from the overload of consciousness itself. It keeps emotions from overflowing, memory from fragmenting, reality from splintering. When we sleep, we are not escaping life, we are preserving the ability to return to it tomorrow. If tonight you feel tired, if you worry that you haven't slept enough, remember this feeling is not failure. It is the voice of a deep need speaking. Sleep does not require you to earn it. It only waits for your permission to stop. And when you stop, when you no longer resist fatigue, sleep will do what nothing else can: keep your body and mind from unraveling, so that you may continue to live, feel, and be present in this world as a whole being. There is a truth humans often avoid: we were not designed to endure endlessly. No matter how advanced intelligence becomes, no matter how many tools society invents to extend wakefulness, the body and mind retain ancient limits. Sleep deprivation is one of nature's clearest reminders of those limits. At first, sleep loss can be masked. Coffee, bright lights, forced focus can temporarily deceive fatigue. But what cannot be deceived is the inner regulatory rhythm. When sleep is postponed too long, that rhythm drifts off course quietly, almost unnoticed. The unraveling of sleep deprivation rarely happens violently. It unfolds silently. First, emotions lose balance. Small things feel overwhelmingly irritating. Patience thins. Then memory falters, familiar tasks are forgotten, simple details confused. Finally, reality itself feels off, everything remains, but nothing feels quite right. From Jung's depth psychological view, this can be understood as the withdrawal of unconscious support. The unconscious quietly sustains consciousness, keeping it flexible and coherent. When sleep is removed, the unconscious loses space to function, leaving consciousness alone, rigid, strained, and brittle. This is why sleep loss does not just make us tired, it makes us unlike ourselves. We say things we wouldn't normally say, feel emotions we don't recognize. This is not moral weakness, but the sign of a system pushed beyond biological and psychological endurance. Comparing hunger and sleep loss reveals sleep's unique role. Hunger is material deprivation. Sleep deprivation is deprivation of inner order. Processes continue, but coordination is lost, like an orchestra still playing without a conductor. Sleep is therefore not merely equal to eating, it is the foundation that allows all other needs to function properly. Eating without sleep does not nourish as it should. Working without sleep loses meaning. Communicating without sleep causes harm. All waking activities depend on the integrity that sleep provides. Seen this way, needing sleep is not weakness, but honesty with human nature. No one escapes sleep, no one conquers it, and no one needs to. If tonight you feel exhausted, if you sense you have been pushing too long, your fatigue is not an enemy. It is a message, a firm but gentle reminder that it is time to stop before the body and mind force you to stop in harsher ways. And when you allow yourself to rest, when you no longer resist sleep, you are not merely avoiding collapse. You are returning to the safest rhythm life has prepared for you. Part 6. Sleep as the brain's self-healing mechanism. There is a very common misunderstanding about the brain, that it is a tireless machine, which as long as it is supplied with enough information and stimulation, can continue working endlessly. The truth is quite the opposite. The brain is one of the most delicate and care-dependent organs in the body, and the deepest form of care nature has provided for it is not medication, not willpower, but sleep. When we are awake, The brain is constantly processing information. Every image, sound, thought, and emotion leaves a trace. The brain records, connects, reacts, and predicts. This process creates not only knowledge but also waste byproducts of neural activity. During the day, the brain does not have the conditions to clear them away. It is too busy surviving. Only when we fall into deep sleep does a special mechanism activate the glymphatic system. This is the brain's cleaning system, a delicate network that uses cerebrospinal fluid to wash away the accumulated waste of the day. Brain cells shrink slightly, creating space for fluid to flow through, carrying away excess proteins and biological debris that, if left to build up, could cause serious damage. Among the substances removed are proteins associated with Alzheimer's disease. This carries a profound implication. The brain is protected from degeneration only when we sleep enough and sleep deeply, not when we try to think more positively, not when we force ourselves to work more intelligently, but when we allow ourselves to withdraw from conscious control. It may sound paradoxical, but the brain is cared for best when we are no longer using it consciously. When the lights go out, when thoughts settle, when the ego steps away from the control panel. Sleep, in the most literal sense, is when the brain is washed, not metaphorically, but through a precise biological process that cannot be replaced. Yet this healing does not stop at the cellular level. When the brain is cleansed, memory and the sense of self are protected as well. Memory is not only the recall of events, it is the foundation of the feeling of who I am. When memory becomes disordered, personal identity begins to wobble. By keeping the brain healthy, sleep quietly prevents us from losing ourselves. Carl Jung believed that the ego is only a small part of the entire psyche. Behind it lies a vast, unconscious world with its own capacity for self-regulation and healing. Sleep is the time when that world is allowed to function without interference. When consciousness withdraws, the unconscious does its work, not through words, but through rhythm, images, and deep internal reorganization. What matters is this: we cannot command the brain to heal itself. We can only create the conditions. And the most important condition is deep, uninterrupted sleep. Sleep not invaded by anxiety or excessive light. Every effort to protect memory, prevent neurological illness, or maintain clarity becomes fragile without this foundation. In a world where humans try to fix everything through action and intervention, sleep reminds us of another truth. Some processes occur only when we stop intervening. The brain does not need supervision to heal itself. It only needs us to trust it enough to let go. Perhaps this is why sleep carries such a unique sense of peace. Not because every problem has been solved, but because while we sleep, we no longer have to carry them. A deeper part of us is working on our behalf. If you are listening now, you do not need to remember details about the glymphatic system or toxic proteins. You only need to remember one simple thing. Every time you sleep, your brain is being cared for quietly, precisely, and intelligently, as it has been throughout hundreds of thousands of years of human evolution. And when you allow yourself to drift into sleep tonight, you are not only resting, you are giving your brain the chance to return to its clearest, cleanest, most whole state. No effort required. No need to understand everything. Just sleep and let the healing unfold. There is something rarely spoken of, yet deeply important. We do not live by continuous thinking, but by the pauses between thoughts. The brain does not only need activity, it needs to be released from activity. Without deep silences, fatigue accumulates not only in cells, but in how we perceive the world and ourselves. Deep sleep is that silence, not an escape from life, but a return to its foundation. When the glymphatic system works, the brain is not only biologically cleaned, it is returned to a subtle balance where connections are no longer overloaded, information no longer tangled, and inner order restored. This matters more than we realize. When the brain becomes dirty, both biologically and symbolically, life begins to feel unclear. Thoughts lose sharpness. Memory becomes scattered. emotions grow difficult to name. And most importantly, the sense of self becomes fragile. We live and function, but no longer feel fully inside ourselves. From Carl Jung's perspective, human wholeness does not come only from self-understanding, but from maintaining connection between layers of the psyche. When the brain is healed through sleep, the unconscious can soothe tensions accumulated by consciousness. Unresolved conflicts do not disappear, but they soften and return to their proper place within the whole. This may be why, after deep sleep, problems still exist, yet feel different. They no longer consume us. We have distance. We can look again. This is not magic, but the result of a brain that has been properly cared for. Sadly, in the modern world, many people try to heal their brains by staying awake longer, seeking more information, more advice, more analysis. But the brain is not healed by adding more. It is healed by subtracting. Less light, less noise, fewer thoughts, and more deep sleep. Sleep, therefore, protects not only memory, but the continuity of personal identity. Each morning after sufficient rest, we do not only remember who we are, we feel who we are. When sleep is disrupted, that feeling fades. We live as if partially disconnected from ourselves. Perhaps this is why the most severe mental disorders often accompany sleep disorders. This is no coincidence. When the brain loses its capacity for self-cleansing and self-regulation, all other delicate structures become vulnerable. And for this reason, sleeping well is not selfish or lazy. It is an act of protecting human wholeness. When you sleep, you are not only caring for an organ, you are keeping memory intact, emotions contained, and identity from shattering. If tonight you allow yourself to sleep a little earlier, turn off the light a little sooner, release thought a little more quickly, you are not missing out on anything. You are creating the conditions for a deep process to occur, one that no willpower can replace. And as you drift into sleep, you do not need to believe or understand everything you have just heard. Your brain already knows what to do. It learned long ago, before language, before memory, before you even knew who you were. Part 7. Dreams, the nighttime laboratory of emotion. There are emotions during the day that we do not have enough time to fully feel. They pass through us while we are busy, pushed aside by work responsibilities and social roles. We register them lightly and move on. But emotions do not disappear simply because we do not look at them. They settle, accumulate, and wait for another space in which to continue existing. Dreams are that space. When night falls and consciousness gradually withdraws, the human mind enters a very special state. This is no longer the world of linear logic, of right and wrong, of control. It is the world of images, symbols, sensations, and inner movement. In this space, emotions that were not processed during the day gain an opportunity to be touched more safely, more gently. Neuroscience shows that during dreaming, especially REM sleep, the brain processes emotion under conditions of reduced stress response. Painful memories are reopened, but without the full physiological intensity experienced in waking life. This allows the mind to approach pain without being overwhelmed by it. Carl Jung did not see dreams as random events, but as a profound process of psychic self-regulation. He believed dreams are how the unconscious speaks to consciousness, not through words, but through images and symbols. What we cannot or dare not feel while awake finds a way to appear in dreams encoded in forms we can tolerate. Dreams do not erase suffering, they soften it. They transform sharp memories into images that can be touched. They allow emotion to move instead of remaining frozen. A sadness in a dream may no longer look the same as it does in waking life, but this very transformation allows the psyche to digest it little by little. This may be why, after a night filled with dreams, we often wake with a strange feeling. The problem is still there, but it feels lighter. We may not understand anything new, yet we can bear it better. This is not avoidance, but a quiet courage of the psyche, the courage to approach what is difficult in the least harmful way. In dreams, the mind is allowed to experiment. It places us in different situations, lets us feel different emotions without the cost of real-world consequences. Dreams are like emotional laboratories where the psyche tests reactions, possibilities, and ways of facing experience, while the body remains safely in bed. Importantly, dreams are not meant to make us happier. They are meant to keep emotion flowing. When emotions are suppressed too long, they become toxic. Dreams prevent this by giving blocked emotional currents a way to move in the darkness. Jung said that the unconscious always moves toward wholeness. If we are overly rational during the day, dreams become emotional. If we avoid grief while awake, dreams return it in a form we can endure. Dreams do not oppose consciousness. They compensate for what consciousness neglects. Thus, every dream, even strange, confusing, or frightening ones, can be seen as an attempt at healing. We do not always need to understand dream content. The fact that it happens is enough. The inner movement it creates matters more than any interpretation. In a modern world that tries to control even sleep and dreams, wanting pleasant dreams, useful dreams, we forget that dreams do not exist to serve the ego's desires. They exist to serve the balance of the whole person. If tonight you dream a sad dream, it does not mean you are moving backward. It may mean your psyche is doing difficult but necessary work, bringing trapped emotions into the gentle light of night so they do not have to carry their weight alone. And if you remember nothing of your dreams, that is fine too. The work has still been done. Therapy has occurred quietly without the need for conscious witnessing. Dreams do not require understanding. They only require permission. And when we allow them, the psyche continues doing what it has always known how to do, healing through images, emotion, and the tenderness of darkness. There is a gentle truth rarely acknowledged during the day. Humans are often not safe enough for emotion to simply be itself. We must stay composed, behave properly, be strong, reasonable, controlled. Emotions that are too sad, too angry, too vulnerable are pushed deeper, not because they are wrong, but because daytime leaves no space for them. Dreams create that space. At night, when the body is still, the lights are off, and the outside world no longer demands response, the mind enters a very ancient safety. There, emotions do not need to be correct. They only need to be felt. Without real-world consequences or judging eyes, emotions can appear in forms they could not carry by day. This is why dreams often contain strange, illogical, even contradictory images. The mind is not retelling events. It is retelling emotional states. Fear may become a dark corridor. Loss may appear as an empty house. An unspoken conflict may emerge as a chase. These images do not need literal understanding. They exist so emotion can move. What matters is that in dreams, emotion is allowed to come and go, not trapped, not frozen, not forced to disappear immediately. This movement reduces stress and softens painful memory. Pain becomes flow, still sad but no longer blocked. From a depth psychology perspective, this is the essence of healing, not removing suffering, but making it bearable. Dreams do this every night without therapy, rooms without explanations, without effort from consciousness. They only need time, darkness, and permission. This may be why trauma survivors often dream intensely. Not because they are weak, but because their psyche is attempting an extraordinarily difficult task, finding a way to live with memory without being consumed by it. Dreams approach painful memory, gradually reshaping it, placing it in different contexts, until the emotion attached to it loses its sharp edge. For this reason, dreams are not always pleasant, but discomfort does not mean harm. On the contrary, many uncomfortable dreams are signs that the psyche is bravely touching areas unreachable by day. That discomfort seen deeply is often gentler than pain that remains suppressed. It is worth remembering that even if you do not recall your dreams, this process still happens. Quiet therapy needs no audience, no retelling. It only needs space. And sleep, with all its silence, provides exactly that space. In a world eager to explain everything, dreams remind us that not everything needs understanding to be effective. Some transformations only need to be lived through. Some pain only needs to be felt in a space safe enough not to cause further harm. If tonight you dream, Whatever the dream may be, you do not need to judge it. You may simply take it as a sign that your psyche is still working, still caring for you in its own way, slowly, gently, and with a single loyalty to keep you from breaking apart inside. And if you do not dream or do not remember dreaming, that too is fine. Healing does not always need recognition. It continues quietly in the gentle darkness of sleep. Part 8. Sleep and dreaming differ across species. When humans think about sleep, we often assume it must resemble our own. Lying still, eyes closed, sinking into darkness, dreaming strange dreams. But if we widen our view to the natural world, we discover something humbling. There is no single way for life to sleep. Sleep is not a rigid template, but a flexible capacity shaped by each species' conditions of survival. In the ocean, dolphins can never allow their entire brains to fall asleep at once. If both hemispheres entered deep sleep, they would be unable to surface for air. So dolphins sleep with half their brain at a time. One hemisphere rests while the other remains just awake enough to control movement and survival. Dolphin sleep is not full surrender, but an intelligent compromise between rest and vigilance. In the sky, some birds go even further. They can sleep while flying during long migratory journeys. Their sleep occurs in very brief moments, like blinks of consciousness. Not deep, not long, but sufficient to maintain internal balance. Life here does not demand perfect sleep, only enough to continue. On land, rhythms shift again. Giraffes sleep very little. With large bodies and high vulnerability, they cannot afford long unconsciousness. Cats, by contrast, sleep extensively. As predators, they can spend much of their time resting, conserving energy for short, intense bursts of action. No species is lazy or industrious in sleep. Each sleeps according to survival needs. One particularly intriguing animal is the platypus. Its brain shows dense dream activity, sometimes more than humans. This suggests that dreaming may be evolutionarily ancient, appearing before brains developed complex structures like our own. In other words, dreams may not serve high intelligence alone, but life at deeper levels. Seen this way, sleep and dreams are not human privileges, but a shared language of nature, a language spoken not in words, but in rhythm. Rest and activity, contraction and expansion, wakefulness and dreaming. Each species speaks it differently, yet all follow the same rule. No life exists in continuous tension. Carl Jung believed humans carry a deep memory of nature, a memory not personal but collective. When we see an animal sleep or sense natural rhythms, something in us recognizes it, recognizes that we belong to this order too, that our sleep is not weakness but continuation of survival wisdom far older than ourselves. Sleep is flexible because life is flexible. There is no single correct or enough sleep for all beings, only what fits. Perhaps modern humans are exhausted not because they sleep too little or too much, but because their sleep no longer fits their natural rhythm. We force sleep into schedules, productivity goals, forgetting that sleep exists to serve life, not performance. By observing how other species sleep, we may stop comparing, judging, or forcing ourselves into rigid patterns. We may begin to understand sleep does not need to be perfect. It only needs to be safe enough for life to continue. And in that moment, when we allow ourselves to sleep more softly, more flexibly, with less judgment, we are doing exactly what all other living beings do naturally, listening to our own survival needs. If tonight you sleep, you are not only resting as a modern human, you are joining a very long chain of life, where every species, every body, every mind has found its own way to stop and continue. If we observe animals closely, we notice that sleep never exists apart from danger. How a creature sleeps always reflects what it faces. While awake, prey animals sleep lightly, briefly, ready to wake. Predators sleep deeply. Sleep becomes a map of survival. From this view, sleep is not the opposite of wakefulness, but part of a complete survival strategy. Dolphins sleep with half a brain not because they are poor sleepers, but because their survival requires partial vigilance. Birds sleep while flying not because their sleep is shallow, but because constant movement is necessary for survival. Each form of sleep is nature's creative response to environmental pressure. The platypus's dense dreaming raises a profound question. What happens in those dreams? They may not dream as humans do. Yet strong dream activity suggests that dreaming existed before reflective consciousness, before language, before ego. Life may have known how to dream as a way of reorganizing experience long before self-awareness. For Carl Jung, this carries deep meaning. He believed the unconscious is not a byproduct of consciousness, but an older foundation. If dreams appeared early in evolution, then dreaming is not merely personal psychology, but a deep regulatory function of life itself. In dreaming, humans touch experiences not entirely individual, but marked by long biological history. This may be why dreams often contain animals, forests, oceans, flight images, unconstrained by culture or era. They reach into a deeper memory of life before humans separated themselves from nature. In dreaming, we process not only personal emotion, but sometimes reconnect with rhythms shared by all living beings. The flexibility of sleep reminds us of something essential. There is no absolute standard for sleep. Rigid advice about hours, schedules, or methods can be helpful to a point, but detached from real life, they easily become pressure. Nature does not operate by formulas. It operates by adaptation. Perhaps the deep exhaustion of modern humans comes not from sleeping wrong, but from losing the ability to listen to personal rhythm. We try to sleep by clocks and expectations, forgetting that sleep exists to meet life's needs, not to achieve performance. When we observe how other species sleep, something in us may soften. We realize that imperfection in sleep is not a personal failure. It is simply the sign of a living being adapting within complexity. Like all life, we need rest, flexible enough to survive, and safe enough to heal. If tonight your sleep arrives late, short, or incomplete, it does not mean you have failed. Life does not measure worth by a perfect night's sleep. It measures continuity. And as long as you keep listening, adjusting, and allowing rest in whatever form is possible, you are doing what all living beings have done for millions of years, finding your own way to survive. And in the moment you close your eyes, whether sleep comes quickly or slowly, you are not alone. You are entering the same rhythm that dolphins, birds, cats, giraffes, and countless other beings have always entered a rhythm, ancient, resilient, and filled with quiet intelligence. Part 9. Unusual states of human sleep. We often imagine sleep as a peaceful silence, a place where consciousness switches off and the world temporarily disappears. But in reality, sleep is not always as quiet as we assume. Beneath that surface of stillness, the human mind can enter very strange states, where the boundary between dreaming and waking becomes so thin, it almost dissolves. There are nights when we dream, while knowing we are dreaming. Within the dream, we are aware of it. Consciousness does not fully withdraw. Instead, it hovers between two worlds. We can observe the dream, sometimes even guide it. This state surprises and excites many people, but looked at more deeply, it reveals a subtle truth. Consciousness does not vanish completely during sleep. It simply shifts its position and its role. From Jung's perspective, lucid dreaming represents a rare direct contact between the ego and the unconscious. The separation is no longer clear. The two worlds overlap. This can bring a sense of power, yet it also reminds us how fragile the boundary between control and surrender truly is within the human psyche. At the opposite end of the spectrum are experiences that often provoke fear, sleep paralysis. The body remains locked in sleep while consciousness has already awakened. We sense the space around us but cannot move, cannot speak. Dream imagery intrudes into waking reality, creating sensations of pressure, presence, or threat. In essence, this is a moment when the dream-wake boundary breaks incompletely. Sleep paralysis is not a sign of weakness, nor something supernatural. It is a vivid demonstration of how the human mind operates in overlapping layers. When those layers fall out of sync, the experience becomes intense. Yet if we look deeply enough, a gentler message emerges. Consciousness does not always hold absolute control. There are other states less frightening but no less strange. Sleepwalking, talking in one's sleep, singing while asleep, eating while asleep. The body acts while consciousness is not fully present. It is as though a very ancient part of the mind takes over, performing familiar, simple actions without the supervision of the waking ego. These phenomena show that sleep is not a simple shutdown. It resembles a multi-layered stage where different parts of the human being take turns appearing. Sometimes consciousness retreats deeply. Sometimes it surfaces. Sometimes the body leads. Sometimes the mind does. And most of the time, we are unaware of these transitions. Carl Jung believed that the human psyche is not a single unified entity, but a living ecosystem. These unusual sleep states are moments when that ecosystem reveals itself. They show that the waking ego, the part we usually call me, is only a small fragment of our total psychological life. When the ego steps back, other parts are given a chance to speak. What matters is this: these states are not system errors. They are signs of a complex, flexible mind, trying to regulate itself across different levels of functioning. Sleep is not always smooth, because humans are not perfect machines, and it is precisely this imperfection that gives depth to human experience. Perhaps that is why people who have experienced unusual sleep states often feel confused, yet quietly curious, as though they briefly glimpsed a doorway into a larger inner world where daytime rules no longer fully apply. If tonight you have ever lucidly dreamed, spoken in your sleep, or experienced sleep paralysis, remember that you are not abnormal. You are simply standing very close to the fragile boundary between consciousness and the unconscious. And that boundary, though sometimes frightening, is also where the richness and self-regulating intelligence of the human mind reveal themselves most clearly. Sleep, then, is not merely rest. It is a journey in which we learn to relinquish control and sometimes unconsciously touch it again. And in these moments of overlap, we may glimpse a quiet truth: consciousness is not the whole of who we are, and not being in full control does not necessarily mean danger. If you are listening to these words before sleep, you do not need to worry about how you will sleep tonight. Sleep has its own intelligence. It knows how to guide you through different states in the way that is most appropriate for you right now. You need only do one simple thing: allow yourself to enter sleep, whether it feels calm or strange. Because in every case, your mind is doing what it has learned through thousands of years of evolution, keeping you alive, sensing, and continuing as a whole human being. Perhaps what makes these strange sleep states so memorable is not their rarity, but the way they unsettle one of our deepest beliefs: the belief that we are always in control of our experience. By day, consciousness stands at the center. We decide, think, react, choose. But in sleep, that role becomes uncertain. And it is precisely in these unusual moments, lucid dreaming, sleep paralysis, sleepwalking, that the fragility of consciousness becomes most visible. In lucid dreaming, we encounter a profound paradox. We are both the observer and the dreamer. Not fully in control yet, not fully surrendered. Many feel exhilarated by this because it gives the ego a rare sense of power. But looked at deeply, lucid dreaming is not a victory of consciousness. It is a brief meeting between consciousness and the unconscious, where neither holds absolute authority. Sleep paralysis, by contrast, terrifies precisely because it presents the opposite: consciousness awake, yet completely powerless over the body. Reason struggles to accept this. We are there but unable to act. In that helplessness, the mind often interprets the experience through threatening narratives. Yet from the depth psychological view of Carl Gustav Jung, sleep paralysis is not an intrusion from outside, but the overflow of the dream world into waking awareness. The frightening images are not messages to be believed. They signal a temporary misalignment between layers of the psyche. When consciousness awakens too early, while the body and dream centers have not yet withdrawn, the experience becomes intense. but intensity does not mean danger. It is simply a rare but natural inner collision. Sleepwalking and sleep talking tell a different story. The body acts without conscious guidance. This often surprises observers more than the person experiencing it, who remembers nothing. From a deeper perspective, this shows that humans carry layers of functioning that do not require conscious thought. Simple, habitual actions can be carried out by very ancient structures of the psyche. Jung believed the ego is only a temporary manager of psychological life, not its absolute owner. When the ego sleeps, other parts continue living. And sometimes they step forward not to create chaos, but to maintain continuity. What troubles many people about these states is the feeling of losing control. But that anxiety reflects a deeper belief that control equals safety. Sleep, especially its in-between states, gently challenges this belief. It shows that safety does not always come from control, but sometimes from allowing natural mechanisms to operate. Perhaps that is why these experiences often occur during periods of stress transition or psychological liminality. When consciousness can no longer keep everything neatly arranged, the unconscious finds a way to speak, not to destroy, but to rebalance. In such moments, sleep becomes a borderland, and at borders, boundaries soften. Consciousness is no longer the sole center. The unconscious is no longer entirely hidden. For a time, we inhabit an in-between state, fragile yet deeply real. If you have experienced these states, the most important thing is not excessive analysis, but not seeing yourself as abnormal. The human mind is layered, and sleep is when those layers can touch. Most of the time, this contact is gentle. Sometimes it becomes more visible, and that lies well within the capacity of a living, dynamic mind. And if tonight your sleep is not entirely peaceful, remember this: even in its strangest forms, your mind is doing what it has always known how to do, seeking balance for the whole person in the way that is most fitting for you right now. Part 10. Sleep builds memory, learning, and creativity. We usually believe that learning happens when we are awake, when we read, take notes, practice, try to understand and remember. But that is only half the story. The other half, quieter, deeper, and more essential, unfolds while we sleep. Sleep is not merely the conclusion of a day of learning. It is where knowledge is truly shaped. When awake, the brain absorbs information in great volume. New experiences, skills, and details are constantly recorded. But in wakefulness, the brain has not yet decided what to keep and what to discard. Everything remains temporary, fragile, easily disrupted. Only when we sleep does memory consolidation truly begin. During sleep, the brain reviews the day's events. It replays neural patterns linked to important skills and memories, as if rehearsing in the dark. Necessary connections are strengthened, redundant ones are weakened. As a result, memory becomes more stable, skills more natural, and learning shifts from conscious effort into embodied knowing. When sleep is lacking, this process breaks down. The brain can no longer distinguish importance from randomness. Memory becomes disorganized. We misremember, confuse details, even form false memories, not because memory is weak, but because its organizing system has not functioned properly. This shows that sleep does not only help us remember more, it helps us remember accurately. But sleep does more than preserve the past. It is also where creativity is conceived. While daytime consciousness follows logical paths and habits, the nighttime unconscious works differently. It connects distant ideas, unrelated images, scattered experiences. In that freedom, new ideas are born. Human creative history is filled with such moments. Many inventions, artworks, and scientific insights emerged not during intense effort, but in dreams or just after waking. Not because humans were lazy, but because the brain needs rest to move beyond familiar frames. Carl Jung believed the unconscious holds possibilities consciousness has not yet touched. In sleep, when the ego no longer directs, thought the unconscious can assemble pieces in its own way. Creativity then is not forced intelligence, but the result of a mind allowed to wander safely. This explains why extreme fatigue and sleep deprivation nearly eliminate creativity. The brain can barely sustain basic function, leaving no space for experimentation or imagination. After deep sleep, by contrast previously, stuck problems feel lighter, more open, not because we are smarter, but because the brain has reorganized itself. Sleep is, in this sense, the silent partner of all learning. It demands no attention and seeks no recognition. But without it, daytime effort becomes fragile. We may learn but cannot retain. We may work but cannot advance. We may think but cannot create. Perhaps sleep is undervalued because we do not see ourselves doing anything while asleep. Yet the most important things often happen when we are not trying. Deep understanding, new connections, genuine creativity all require silence. If tonight you allow yourself enough sleep, you are not only resting, you are creating conditions for memory, to solidify skills, to sink into the body, and new ideas to sprout. You are giving the unconscious a chance to do what it does best: connect, restructure, and open possibilities never consciously imagined. And when you wake, you may not remember having learned anything in sleep, but you may notice something. Subtle things feel clearer, lighter, more possible. That is the sign that sleep has done its work, quietly, patiently, and wisely. There is a beautiful paradox in how humans learn. The most important insights rarely come through direct effort. We can read, write, and practice all day, yet deep understanding, the feeling of, "oh, that's it," often arrives later in stillness, sometimes after waking from sleep. Sleep does not just store knowledge, it transforms it into lived understanding. During sleep, the brain is freed from goals and demands. It does not need to answer right or wrong, complete tasks, or perform. This freedom allows it to connect things separated by daytime structure. New ideas may emerge from old memories, fleeting images, unnamed emotions. These connections follow a deeper order, the order of the unconscious. Jung believed creativity does not arise from accumulating information, but from allowing the unconscious to participate in thinking. Sleep is the widest door for this participation. When the ego relinquishes control, the unconscious explores paths the waking mind would never attempt. And in that freedom, something new is born. This also explains why people deprived of sleep feel mentally closed. They still think, but in loops. They try harder, yet find no new way forward. The brain lacks space to play with ideas or test unusual connections. Creativity does not die from lack of talent, but from lack of sleep. Sleep also teaches us things logic cannot. Subtle skills, rhythm, intuition, the ability to know without knowing why, are cultivated in the darkness of sleep. These are capacities Jung called the wisdom of the unconscious. They cannot be forced. They can only be allowed to grow in silence. With sufficient sleep, the brain not only remembers facts, but shapes a style of thinking. Patterns become visible. Relationships emerge. Directions are sensed. These qualities are difficult to measure, yet they determine long-term learning and creativity. A well-rested person not only remembers better, but thinks differently, more softly, openly, and flexibly. Perhaps this is why many ancient traditions viewed sleep and dreams as sources of knowledge. Not knowledge to control the world, but knowledge to live in harmony with it. Jung, in a modern language, preserved that spirit. The unconscious is not the enemy of reason, but a partner that must be heard. Looking back on our own learning, we may realize that major breakthroughs rarely happen in moments of peak strain. They come after letting go, after resting, after sleeping. Not because we are lazy, but because the brain needs darkness to reorganize light. Thus, sleeping is not stopping learning. It is completing it. Sleep is not leaving creativity behind. It is where creativity quietly forms before stepping into daylight. If tonight you feel you have not yet understood something or resolved a problem, you do not need to force more thinking. You can trust that while you sleep, your brain will continue working, not loudly, but in the deepest way it knows. And tomorrow morning you may not have an immediate answer, but you may sense a subtle difference, a lighter mind, softer thoughts, and new possibilities waiting to be named. That is the sign that sleep has taught you something in its own way. Part 11. Sleep shapes emotion and behavior. Humans often believe that their emotions and behaviors arise from personality, morality, or carefully considered values. We like to think we act as we do because that's who I am. But there is a subtler truth, less often acknowledged and sometimes harder to accept. Many of our emotions and decisions are shaped simply by whether we have slept enough. When sleep is lacking, the first thing to change is not intelligence, but emotional self-regulation. Brain regions responsible for inhibiting impulsive reactions weaken, while primitive emotional centers become more active. The result is that we become more irritable, more sensitive, more prone to overreact. Not because we are worse people, but because the system that supports calm has not been properly sustained. A sleep-deprived person is not only tired, they often feel that everything is too much. Sounds are too loud, light is too bright. Other people's words feel heavier than they are. In this state, emotions no longer flow smoothly. They accumulate as pressure. And when pressure is not released, behavior becomes impulsive, words spoken that should not be said, decisions made that should not be made, risks taken unnecessarily. What is striking is that lack of sleep can lead people to act against their own values. A gentle person becomes sharp. A cautious person becomes reckless. A kind person unintentionally harms others. Not because their nature has changed, but because sleep, the quiet foundation of self-control, has been removed. Carl Jung believed morality is not merely a matter of willpower, but the outcome of inner balance. When the mind is overstretched, when consciousness must carry on without support from the unconscious, people are more likely to fall into extreme or unconscious behavior. In this light, sleep is not only a biological need, but a psychological condition for living in alignment with one's values. Sleep deprivation also distorts risk assessment. We become either overly fearful, avoiding everything, or overly bold, unable to sense consequences. In both cases, sound judgment deteriorates. And when personal decisions are distorted, their effects ripple outward to families, workplaces, communities, and society. It is no coincidence that many serious accidents, collective misjudgments, and unethical behaviors occur in contexts of exhaustion and chronic sleep deprivation. When sleep is neglected, wisdom fades, not because people do not know what is right, but because they no longer have the strength to live by it. Sleep is thus the invisible foundation of calm. It gives emotion enough distance not to sweep us away. It slows thinking, so reaction is not immediate. It allows consciousness and the unconscious to dialogue rather than collide. In a well-rested state, humans are not perfect, but they are gentler with themselves and with others. Jung believed wisdom does not come from suppressing emotion, but from understanding and integrating it. Sleep is an essential part of that process. While we sleep, emotions left unresolved during the day are softened and returned to a wider psychic flow. As a result, when we awaken, we are not entirely governed by them. This may be why, after a good night's sleep, we often feel more pleasant, clear, or considerate. Not because problems have vanished, but because we have enough inner space to face them without being submerged. If tonight you feel overly tense, easily irritated, or exhausted by your own reactions, remember that what you may need is not moral advice or greater effort to be better, but simply deeper sleep. Not to escape responsibility, but to regain the capacity to carry it in a healthy way. Sleep does not make humans saints, but it prevents the loss of basic wisdom, the wisdom of knowing when to pause, when to wait, when not to react immediately, and when the most responsible thing we can do for the world is to rest. There is a common misunderstanding in human life. We often believe that to behave better, we must try harder, restrain emotions, think positively, be rational and correct. Yet in many cases, impulsivity, irritability, and recklessness do not stem from moral failure, but from the absence of the most basic biological and psychological support, sleep. When the body and brain are deprived of rest, the ability to pause before reacting nearly disappears. Emotion flows straight into behavior, without the buffer of reflection. A careless remark becomes an insult. A rushed decision becomes a lasting mistake. Not because people intend harm, but because they lack the inner resources to act otherwise. In prolonged sleep deprivation, emotions lose context. Everything feels urgent, immediate, unbearable. The brain functions as a constant alarm system, and in such a state-wise behavior is difficult to sustain. Calm cannot exist when its biological foundation has been removed. From Carl Gustav Jung's perspective, this is when the ego becomes most fragile. When consciousness is exhausted, it can no longer regulate the powerful impulses of the unconscious. Primitive emotions, anger, fear, desire, defensiveness rise to the surface. Behavior is no longer guided by deeper values, but by temporary imbalance. This is crucial when considering ethics and social responsibility. A sleep-deprived society is tense, polarized, and prone to extremes. Empathy declines. It becomes harder to see from another's perspective. The world is divided into black and white, right and wrong, friend and enemy. The gray zones where wisdom lives gradually disappear. Sleep in this context is not just a personal health matter. It is a silent, ethical foundation of community life. A well-rested person is not perfect, but is more capable of pausing, reflecting, and choosing less harmful actions, not because they are better, but because they are better supported. Wisdom rarely appears in exhaustion. We may be intelligent, knowledgeable, aware of what is right, but to live rightly we need a calm mind, and that calm cannot be forced. It is cultivated nightly in deep sleep, where emotions are softened and conflicts return to their proper place. Sleep does not eliminate inner conflict, but it creates the distance needed so conflict does not entirely govern behavior. It allows us to choose not to speak hurtful words immediately, to wait until tomorrow before deciding to listen rather than react. These small choices repeated form what we call everyday wisdom. If tonight you feel you reacted too strongly, said something you did not mean, or acted unlike the person you wish to be, do not rush to condemn yourself. What you may need is not judgment but care through sleep, not to avoid consequences but to face them with steadier ground. In the end, sleep does not tell us what to do. It simply restores our capacity to choose. And in a world full of stimulation, pressure, and fatigue, that capacity is the very root of inner freedom. Part 12. Sleep and the body hormones immunity and the heart. Human beings often think of the body as a machine that must be operated correctly, eating at the right time, exercising properly, working according to schedule. Yet we rarely pause to recognize that the body does not only need to be managed, it needs rest in order to repair itself. And sleep is the only time of day when the body is truly allowed to do this fully. When we sleep, the body does not shut down. On the contrary, it enters a different mode of activity, more subtle, deeper, and wiser. Processes that cannot unfold during the busyness of daytime finally have the space to begin. Sleep, therefore, does not merely restore energy. It re-establishes biological order throughout the entire body. One of sleep's first roles is regulating the hormones of hunger and satiety. When we sleep enough, these signals are balanced. The body knows when to eat and when to stop. But when sleep is lacking, this order is disrupted. We crave food more easily, especially high-energy foods, not because of weak willpower, but because the body is trying to compensate for exhaustion in the fastest way it knows. Sleep here is the quiet conductor of moderation. Beyond metabolism, sleep is also the greatest ally of the immune system. During deep sleep, the body produces and coordinates immune cells, repairs microscopic damage, and remembers how to respond to pathogens. Adequate sleep does not make us invincible, but it helps the body respond more intelligently to illness. Sleep deprivation, by contrast, throws the immune system off balance, making it either sluggish or excessively reactive. The cardiovascular system, too, finds its calm during sleep. Heart rate slows, blood pressure drops, blood vessels are relieved from daytime strain. This is not a passive state, but a period of maintenance. When sleep is shortened or repeatedly interrupted, the heart is denied its return to equilibrium, and biological stress accumulates quietly, often unnoticed. During deep sleep, the body also releases growth hormone not only for children, but throughout the lifespan. This hormone supports tissue repair, muscle recovery, and the maintenance of healthy bodily structure. It is no coincidence that those who sleep well often feel a sense of renewal, while chronic sleep deprivation produces a feeling of inner erosion. At an even deeper level, sleep participates in DNA repair. Each day, cells endure countless micro-injuries. During the day, the body prioritizes action. At night, in sleep repair, mechanisms are activated. This is one reason sleep is considered the most natural anti-aging factor, not because it keeps us young forever, but because it slows the inevitable wear of living. Carl Jung viewed body and psyche as two aspects of the same living reality. When the mind rests, the body gains the conditions to heal. And when the body is properly cared for, the mind becomes softer. Sleep is the perfect intersection of these two dimensions, a place where biological healing and psychological healing occur simultaneously without words. What is remarkable is this: the body does not require understanding in order to heal itself. It only needs the right conditions. Sleep is the most important of those conditions. When we sleep, we do not need to do it right. The body already knows what to do. It has learned this through millions of years of evolution. In a world that constantly urges intervention, optimization, and control, sleep reminds us of another path, the path of trust. Trust that the body is not working against us. Trust that when sufficiently rested, it will find its own balance. Trust that healing does not always require effort. If tonight you feel tired within your own body, you do not need to fix anything immediately. You can allow yourself to lie down, to soften, and to let sleep do what it has always done: care for you from the inside, heartbeat by heartbeat, cell by cell, breath by breath. And while you sleep, even if you do not feel it, something very deep is taking place. Not loudly, not dramatically, but steadily and faithfully. It is the body saying to you, rest. I will take care of the rest. There is something easily forgotten in modern life. The body was not designed to endure constantly. It was designed to move, rest, and recover according to very specific rhythms. When people live too long in tension, the body adapts by enduring in their place. And it is then that sleep becomes the rare opportunity for the body to return to its rightful role. In deep sleep, the body no longer has to react continuously to the outside world. It does not need to stay alert, defend itself, or prepare for the next action. As a result, biological systems can shift from coping mode into care and repair mode. This transition is crucial because healing occurs only when the body feels safe enough to stop being vigilant. Hormones in this context act like silent messengers. With adequate sleep, they carry messages of stability. It is time to restore, time to repair, time to recover. With insufficient sleep, these messages become confused. The body no longer knows whether it should rest or fight. And this confusion, if prolonged, slowly erodes health in ways that are not immediately obvious. The immune system is similarly affected. It does not simply need to be strong. It needs to be well coordinated. Enough sleep allows immune responses to be balanced fast enough to protect, gentle enough not to attack the body itself. Sleep deprivation disrupts this balance, making immunity either overreactive or under-responsive. Sleep, therefore, does not merely boost immunity, but keeps biological responses wise. The slowing of the heart during sleep is not only a sign of rest, it is a reminder that the body needs deceleration. A heart that never slows becomes exhausted, just like a mind that never becomes quiet. When sleep is shortened, the heart loses these necessary pauses and pressure accumulates quietly over time. At the deepest level, DNA repair during sleep carries a beautiful symbolic meaning. The body is always trying to keep itself whole, whether we are aware of it or not. Each night, it silently mends small injuries we never noticed during the day. It asks for no attention, no recognition, only time and darkness. From Carl Gustav Jung's perspective, the body is inseparable from the soul. What unfolds in the body reflects the deeper state of the psyche. When people do not allow themselves to rest, the body carries tensions that consciousness has not processed. Sleep, then, is not merely biological. It is an act of trust, trusting that the body and the unconscious know how to self-regulate. Perhaps this is why many people, when they begin to sleep more fully, feel not only healthier but more able to breathe in life itself. Overreactions soften, unnamed fatigue diminishes. Not because every problem has been solved, but because the body is no longer forced to hold everything alone. Sleep does not promise immortality. It does not eliminate illness or aging, but it does something essential. It slows the process of wear enough to allow a person to live more fully within their own body. If tonight you place a hand on your chest and feel your heartbeat slow as you drift into sleep, remember that this is not surrender. It is a sign that your body is finally allowed to return to its biological wisdom. A wisdom that speaks without words, yet has sustained life across countless generations. And as you sleep, even without knowing it, countless small systems within you are working together quietly, faithfully, to tell you one simple thing: you do not have to carry everything by yourself. Part 13. Biological Rhythms, Light, and the Culture of Sleep. Before humans learned to measure time in hours and minutes, the body already knew when to wake and when to sleep. No clocks, no calendars, no alarms were needed. Circadian rhythm, the invisible inner clock, was guided by light, darkness, and ancient cycles of life. In that context, sleep was not a habit but the body's natural response to the surrounding world. Each night, sleep does not unfold in one continuous stretch, as we often imagine. It moves in cycles of about 90 minutes, repeating several times. Each cycle is a small journey from light sleep into deep sleep, then back to dreaming. This rhythm resembles the tide, rising, falling, and rising again. When we sleep, enough body and mind complete these cycles fully. When sleep is fragmented, the rhythm is broken, and the feeling of sleeping without resting emerges. Darkness plays a central role in this process. As light fades, the body begins to release melatonin, the hormone that signals it is time to withdraw from the outer world. Melatonin does not directly cause sleep. It opens the door to it. It tells the entire biological system: slow down, lower vigilance, prepare for nighttime repair. The problem of modern life is not biological sleep loss alone, but the disruption of natural signals by artificial light. Screens, electric lighting, and perpetually illuminated spaces blur the distinction between day and night. Melatonin release is delayed. Circadian rhythm is shifted. We lie down, but the body still believes it is daytime. This disruption becomes especially clear in extreme situations: jet lag, living in polar regions with abnormal day-night cycles, or even sleeping in space. When natural light can no longer guide the system, the body struggles to re-establish rhythm. Fatigue, confusion, and inner disorientation arise not only from lack of sleep, but from a biological clock that has lost its bearings. This shows that sleep is not merely an individual issue, but an interaction between human beings and their environment, an environment increasingly shaped by culture and technology. Some societies treat short sleep as a sign of effort. Some celebrate staying up late as proof of creativity or success. In such contexts, sleep becomes something to be scheduled rather than a rhythm to be listened to. Carl Jung observed that modern humans have drifted far from their natural cycles. When connection to circadian rhythm is lost, people do not only grow physically tired, they become psychologically disoriented. They no longer know when to advance and when to stop. Sleep, when forced by schedules and artificial light, loses its deep regulatory function. Sleep is influenced by culture, but it does not fully obey culture. The body still speaks, even if softly. Sleepiness at familiar hours, unexplained fatigue when rhythms are disturbed. These signals are not inconveniences. They are reminders from the nature within. In a world that is always bright, always connected, always active, dimming the lights and allowing darkness to return may be more than a biological act. It may be a philosophical choice. A choice to trust that humans do not need to be awake all the time. A choice to accept that some aspects of life function best at night. If tonight you reduce light, turn off screens a little earlier and allow darkness to surround you, you are not falling behind. You are synchronizing with a very old rhythm, one that sustained humanity long before modern civilization. Sleep does not demand perfection. It only asks for respect for rhythm. And when that rhythm is restored, even partially, body and mind will know how to adjust as they always have. One of the most subtle yet profound changes of modern life is that night is no longer truly night. Light is constant. Sound never fully stops. Information continues flowing even when the body is tired. In this context, circadian rhythm, once guided by the simple rise and fall of the sun, becomes confused. Not because it is weak, but because the environment has changed faster than biology can adapt. Circadian rhythm is not merely a timing mechanism. It is a form of bodily memory. The body remembers when to be alert and when to slow down. It remembers the safety of darkness. It remembers that there is a part of the day that requires no reaction, no efficiency, no presence. When darkness is erased by artificial light, that memory gradually fades. The 90-minute sleep cycle can be seen as the deep breathing of the nervous system. Each completed cycle is a full internal round. When sleep is interrupted by light noise or anxiety, these rounds remain unfinished. Next-day fatigue comes not only from sleeping too little, but from failing to complete one's natural rhythm. Melatonin in this story is more than a hormone. It is like the body's night watchman. When darkness arrives at the right time, melatonin signals that the world is temporarily safe enough to release vigilance. But when light appears at the wrong time, the watchman becomes confused. The body no longer knows whether to rest or remain tense. In that uncertainty, sleep becomes fragile. Experiences such as jet lag or life in polar regions reveal how deeply the psyche depends on natural light. When day and night lose clarity, people become not only tired but more prone to sadness, irritability, and disorientation. This is not merely biological disorder, it is a disturbance of our sense of belonging in time. We no longer know which part of the day we are living in. From Carl Gustav Jung's perspective, losing touch with circadian rhythm also means losing touch with the unconscious. Jung believed the unconscious operates in cycles, in symbols of day and night, light and dark activity and rest. When people live continuously in daytime, the unconscious has no space to work. When it is suppressed, psychological fatigue arises. Culture and technology do not intentionally destroy sleep. They simply prioritize other values: speed, connection, constant availability. But the body was not designed to be constantly available. It needs regular withdrawal. When culture no longer honors these pauses, individuals must relearn how to create darkness for themselves, externally and internally. Perhaps dimming lights, reducing stimulation, and accepting quiet before sleep are not merely sleep techniques, but acts of restoring rhythm, a way of telling the body it is time to stop responding. The world can continue turning without our intervention. Sleep is shaped by culture, but it also has the power to teach culture in return. It reminds us that not everything needs illumination. Not every moment must be filled. Some things unfold best when light softens and pace slows. If tonight you allow darkness to come earlier and let circadian rhythm guide you instead of the clock, you are not moving against the world. You are moving with a deeper order, one that sustained humanity long before work schedules, time zone flights, or glowing screens. And in that gentle darkness, the body remembers what it has never completely forgotten: how to rest according to its true nature. Part 14. Sleep in History, Society, and Belief. Sleep may be one of the few experiences shared by all humans across all eras. Yet the way people understand sleep has never been fixed. Across civilizations and historical periods, Sleep has been given different meanings, sometimes sacred, sometimes suspicious, sometimes neglected, sometimes revered. By examining how people speak about sleep, we can see how they understand themselves. In the ancient world, sleep was rarely considered wasteful. The ancient Greeks viewed sleep as a form of natural medicine. Temples dedicated to Asclepius included special spaces where people came specifically to sleep. They believed that during sleep, body and soul were healed, and dreams carried guidance for recovery. Sleep was not an escape from life, but part of caring for it. In many ancient cultures, dreams were also seen as channels of communication with the divine. People believed that in sleep humans entered another realm, where gods, ancestors, or unseen forces could speak. Dreams were not private experiences, but communal events. The dreamer shared the dream, and the community interpreted it together. In this context, sleep was a doorway connecting humans to something beyond the individual ego. As societies moved into eras of rationalism and industrialization, this view changed. Sleep was stripped of its sacred dimension and reclassified as a biological function necessary but unremarkable. At the same time, stories of historical figures who slept very little began to be celebrated. Leaders, geniuses, and entrepreneurs, known for short, irregular sleep, were portrayed as symbols of strong will and exceptional productivity. These stories, compelling as they are, helped cultivate a dangerous belief that sleeping less is a sign of superiority, while sleeping more reflects weakness or laziness. In societies that worship efficiency and speed, sleep was pushed to the bottom of priorities. It became something to be cut back when busy, rather than the foundation upon which everything else depends. From this, a debate between two extremes emerged: sleep as laziness or sleep as luxury. For some, sleeping much meant lack of effort. For others, sleeping enough became a privilege reserved for the fortunate. In both views, sleep was detached from its true nature, a universal need unrelated to status or morality. Carl Jung saw in this shift a deeper issue: modern humans had lost respect for unconscious processes. When all values revolve around consciousness, doing, thinking, deciding, controlling what happens in darkness is dismissed. Sleep as the domain of the unconscious becomes something that cannot be measured and therefore is not valued. Society not only shapes how we think about sleep, but how we sleep. Work schedules, urban lighting technology, and fast pace force sleep into unnatural frames. We sleep by obligation, by alarm clock, by timetable, not by natural drowsiness. Gradually, people not only lose sleep, but lose trust in their own bodily signals. Notably, during times of crisis, war, pandemics, societal collapse, sleep often returns to the center of attention. People speak again of rest, recovery, and healing, as if only when external structures tremble do we remember that sleep is not endlessly negotiable. Looking back through history, sleep itself has never changed. Only the meanings humans attach to it have. And perhaps each era must relearn its own lesson about sleep. For our time, that lesson may be simple: sleep is neither laziness nor luxury. It is a condition for remaining human. If tonight you allow yourself to sleep without guilt, you are not merely caring for yourself. You are resisting a historical prejudice that has caused generations to forget the true value of rest. You are standing with an ancient wisdom. Your ancestors trusted that in sleep life is preserved. And as you close your eyes, you are not entering only your own sleep. You are entering humanity's sleep, a long current of people who lay down, dreamed, and woke again to continue living. It can be said that no sleep is entirely personal. How a person sleeps, long or short, deep or fragmented, peaceful or anxious, always bears the imprint of their era. Collective beliefs, social values, what is praised or dismissed, all seep into the night, quietly shaping how people permit themselves to rest. In ancient agricultural societies, sleep rhythms were closely tied to nature. Long days meant more work. Long nights meant longer sleep. Sleep was an unquestioned part of the life cycle. But with industrialization, time was divided, measured, and sold. Sleep became a moral issue. how long one slept when one slept, whether sleep was deserved, all were weighed on a scale of value. In that context, models of little sleep were exalted not only for talent, but because they embodied the social ideal, always awake, always working, always available. Gradually, sleep ceased to be a biological need and became a measure of discipline and willpower. Anyone needing more sleep carried guilt as if doing something wrong. From Carl Gustav Jung's perspective, this reflects a culture overly identified with consciousness, action, and daylight. Jung believed that when a culture neglects the unconscious and darkness, what is ignored returns as psychological imbalance. Sleep does not disappear when devalued. It reappears as chronic fatigue, anxiety, emptiness, and a sense of living without restoration. The belief that sleep is laziness is not merely personal opinion, but a collective assumption embedded in social unconsciousness. It leads people to judge themselves by hours awake, by endurance, by sacrifice of rest. But the body does not operate according to that belief. It still needs sleep. When deprived, it speaks through illness, exhaustion, and unnamed disorders. Conversely, the idea that sleep is a luxury reflects a subtle injustice. Not everyone has the conditions to sleep enough. Economic pressure, work demands, and family responsibilities force sleep into sacrifice. In such cases, sleep is not despised but placed out of reach. People learn to live sleep-deprived as a normal state of survival. What deserves reflection is this regardless of how sleep is judged. Its biological role never changes. It remains foundational. Only humans drift farther from it. And this drift creates an increasing gap between how we live and how we were designed to live. History shows that eras respecting sleep also tend to respect human rhythm. Eras that disregard sleep often coincide with tension, polarization, and collective exhaustion. This is no accident. When people do not rest enough, empathy declines, extremism rises, and destructive decisions become easier. Sleep, therefore, is not only a personal health issue but a subtle indicator of civilization. A society that allows people to sleep acknowledges that humans are not machines. A society that shames the need for sleep is denying its own vulnerability. If tonight you allow yourself to sleep without self-judgment, you are doing something quiet yet profound. You are refusing to carry a collective belief that no longer serves life. You are restoring sleep to its rightful place, not as laziness or luxury, but as respect for body and psyche. And as you drift into sleep, you are not resting for yourself alone. You are reconnecting with a long human current. People throughout history who trusted that in sleep, something more important than work or reputation was being preserved: the ability to continue living whole. Part 15. Conclusion: Sleep, the home we return to each night. Perhaps after moving through everything we have just spoken about regarding sleep, science, evolution, emotion, memory, culture, the most important thing to be remembered is a very simple truth. Sleep is not a void in life. It is not the erased space between 2 days. It is a world of its own, existing alongside the waking world, quietly supporting it. During the day, human beings step outward. We carry names, roles, responsibilities, memories, desires. We speak, think, decide, strive. We collide with the world and with ourselves. But at night we return, without identity, without explanation, without the need to prove anything. Sleep receives us like a home that asks no questions, a place where we are allowed to exist without having to do anything at all. Every living being returns there. Whether human, bird of the sky, fish of the sea, or ancient creatures from long ago, all share a moment in the cycle of life when activity yields to rest. No species exists in constant tension. No life is built solely on wakefulness. Sleep is not an exception to life, it is an indispensable half of it. Carl Jung once said that there are processes within the human being that do not belong to consciousness and do not require its intervention. Sleep is the clearest proof of this. When we sleep, we do not control healing. We do not command memories to reorganize. We do not tell the unconscious what to do. And precisely because of this, everything can take place. You do not need to understand everything in order to be healed. You do not need to remember everything in order to rest. You do not need to explain why you are tired in order to be allowed to sleep. Sleep does not demand competence. It does not require you to be worthy. It asks for only one small thing: permission. Permission to stop thinking. Permission to stop trying. Permission for the body and mind to do the work they have known how to do for a very long time. Perhaps in this moment you still carry a few unfinished thoughts, a few unnamed emotions, a few unsettled worries. That is perfectly fine. You do not need to bring them into sleep as a task. You may place them down right at the threshold of this home. They can stay there. You do not need to deal with them now. Sleep does not promise to solve every problem, but it promises something very important: to keep you from breaking apart, to soften what has grown too heavy, to quietly reorganize what feels tangled, to keep life within you flowing even when you are no longer watching. And when you sleep, you do not disappear. You simply withdraw from the light, allowing other parts of you the space to work. Like a city at night when streets grow quieter, yet inside essential systems continue to operate, caring, repairing, preparing for a new day. If tonight you drift into sleep, let it come in its own way. Fast or slow is fine. Deep or light is fine. There is no standard you must meet. This home has no conditions. It is always open. And when you are there in that gentle darkness, you do not need to do anything at all. Just stay. Just breathe. Just allow yourself to be held. Sleep is the place we return to, not to forget life, but to be able to continue living. And tonight, like so many nights before, that home is still waiting for you. There is a very special moment just before a person fully falls asleep. It is the moment when one is no longer fully awake, yet not entirely asleep. Consciousness begins to loosen. Thoughts no longer line up neatly. Time loses its sharp edges. In that moment, you no longer have to be your daytime self. No roles to fulfill, no stories to tell, no image to maintain. Sleep arrives like a whisper. You do not have to carry everything. In Carl Gustav Jung's view, this is the moment when the ego releases control. And this is not a loss, but a return to a more whole state. When consciousness steps back, the unconscious is no longer covered over, and it does not arrive to create chaos. It arrives to restore balance. Sleep does not ask what you accomplished today. It does not care whether you were right or wrong. It does not demand that you understand yourself. It simply opens like a familiar dark room you have visited many times before, even if you do not remember every detail. A place without harsh lights, without calling voices, only the steady presence of breath and heartbeat. Every living being knows the way back there. No map is needed, no learning required. From the simplest organism to the human being, all share a common biological memory. When tired, when it is dark, when the cycle closes, return. Return to be held, not to be judged. Perhaps what makes sleep difficult for modern humans is not that they do not know how to sleep, but that they struggle to allow themselves to do nothing at all. Even in sleep, we try to control. Did I sleep at the right time, deeply enough? Will tomorrow be okay? But sleep does not operate through control. It operates through trust. Trust that the body knows how to rest. Trust that the mind knows how to settle. Trust that some things do not require conscious intervention. Sleep does not need you to understand it. It does not need further analysis. Everything essential has already been spoken through experience itself. Each time you sleep and wake up the next morning is proof that something within you has worked very well during the night. And if there are nights when you do not sleep deeply or fully, that does not mean you have failed. This home does not close because you arrive late or leave early. It does not keep records. It does not compare. It simply exists like solid ground, always there, waiting for when you are ready to lie down. Perhaps right now, as you listen to these words, your eyelids feel heavier. Your breath slows. Thoughts begin to drift apart. If that is happening, you do not need to make it happen faster. You can let it come on its own, like waves reaching the shore when the wind is calm. And if you are still awake, that is also fine. You are already very close to the threshold. There is no need to hurry across. This home does not vanish. Sleep is not the end of a day. It is the quiet continuation of life, where what is tired is set down, what is tangled is gently loosened, and what is alive is preserved. Tonight you do not need to try to sleep. You only need to allow yourself to return. And when you return, everything else, you can wait until morning. And now, as we have reached the final moments of this journey together, perhaps you no longer need any new information, no further explanations, no more evidence. The most important things about sleep have never lived in knowledge, but in the sensations now spreading through your body. Sleep in the end has never been a problem to be solved. It is a natural movement of life, a necessary withdrawal so that nothing becomes overwhelmed, a gentle darkness where humans are allowed to stop trying without feeling guilty. Perhaps during the day you had to think a great deal, make decisions, regulate emotions, carry responsibilities. Perhaps you are tired not because you did too much, but because you always had to be someone. Sleep does not ask you to bring that identity with you. When night falls, you are allowed to return to your simplest state, a living being who breathes, exists, and is supported. In Carl Jung's understanding, there are parts of the human being that can only be touched when consciousness steps back. By day, we live in the light of reason. By night, we return to a deeper realm where one does not need to understand in order to be healed. Sleep is the doorway connecting these two worlds, quietly, without display, yet faithfully and enduringly. You do not need to fall asleep quickly. You do not need to sleep deeply. You do not need to erase every thought. You only need to allow sleep to come in its own way. If a few thoughts still pass through, that is completely fine. You do not need to chase them away. Let them drift like clouds in the night sky. Do not hold them. Do not analyze them. They will fade on their own when they are no longer attended to. Notice your breath. Do not change its rhythm. Simply recognize that it is there, steady, faithful, like an ancient reminder that you are safe. Sleep is not where you disappear. It is where you are held in the gentlest way life has ever known. In that darkness, the body will do its work. So will the mind. What needs repair will be repaired. What needs soothing will be soothed. No instruction required, no supervision needed. And if tonight's sleep arrives slowly, please do not lose heart. This home does not close. It does not measure time. It does not judge. You may stand at its threshold as long as you wish. Just know that it is always there. Perhaps in this permission to rest without needing a reason, something very deep can heal. Not because you did it right, but because you stopped trying to do it right. If the stories, reflections, and silences in this video have brought you even a small sense of safety, then that is already enough. Stories for Sleep was created with a very simple wish, to be a space where you can set down the noisy world and return to yourself each night. If this space feels right for you, you are welcome to gently subscribe so these quiet stories may continue to accompany you on other nights. No commitment, no pressure. Just a way for us to meet again when night falls. And now there is nothing more you need to do. Everything important has already been said. What remains belongs to sleep. I wish you a truly peaceful night, a sleep deep enough for the body to rest, soft enough for the mind to release, and safe enough for you to know you are not going anywhere, you are simply returning. Sleep well.